As of Friday morning, President Trump authorized continuing peace talks with Iran, but he said the ceasefire is over. That means the U.S. will act with crushing force if Iran keeps interfering with ships in the Strait of Hormuz.
You've got some people within the Iranian system who are saying, you know what, we want to change our relationship with the United States. We want to turn over a new leaf. And the president said, okay, we will sit down at the table and negotiate and see if the smart people in that system can take over from the crazy people. Well, here's the basic deal that we cut. The basic deal that we cut was, we'll lift our blockade if you stop shooting at ships. But if you shoot at ships, we are going to punch back, and we're going to punch back harder than ever before. That was the deal.
And on Thursday, video from Iran's funeral for Ayatollah Khamenei, broadcast religiously by the media, showcased huge banners vowing to kill President Donald Trump. This resonates with Democrats here. They also want to destroy Trump, along with Western civilization. I'm Barbara Boyd, and I've been on this story since the original Iranian Revolution in 1979. Today, we'll first look at the reality of the Iran conflict, not the media's lies. Then we'll put that conflict into its true strategic context, the war between Trump's American system of economics and the dying globalist order that hates America and Trump. Finally, I'll show you how Trump's manufacturing and nuclear revolution is putting the old oil-based globalist system in its final grave. Now, many Trump voters are confused about the Iran conflict. They're bombarded daily with the lie that Trump has become a warmonger for Israel, abandoning his pledge for no more wars. But Trump has stayed focused on creating Middle East peace, often in direct conflict with Israel. That's the real story. Last January, Trump set up a board of peace with nearly every interested party in the region tasked first with Gaza's economic development. Israel joined, very reluctantly, objecting to Qatar and Turkey's participation. But Iran stood in the way, waging permanent war on Israel for decades through Hamas, Hezbollah, and the IRGC's terrorists, while chasing a nuclear bomb for its holy war against Israel and America. Death to America is not an idle slogan with these people. Back in April 2021, Iran told the Biden administration it had enriched uranium to 60%. That was a deliberate provocation. Obama's JCPOA deal capped enrichment at just 3.67%, nowhere close to 60. Biden, as usual, did nothing, leaving Iran within reach of a weapon. That requires 90% enrichment, but it is in rapid reach once you reach 60%. Terrorized, the Gulf states sought accommodation with Iran. China's role in the region, which delivers much of the world's oil and gas, grew larger than Biden's U.S. presence. In March of 2025, just as he entered his new term, Trump ordered direct talks with Iran. When Iran refused to limit its program in June, Operation Midnight Hammer destroyed its nuclear facilities. That lasted all of 25 minutes. When Iran tried to rebuild and intensify missile production, the U.S. launched Operation Epic Fury on February 28, 2026. Ahead of Epic Fury, Iran told U.S. negotiators it had enough material for 11 nuclear bombs. When Epic Fury commenced, Iran retaliated by hurling missiles and drones at Gulf oil and gas facilities, as well as U.S. bases in Israel. These attacks on its OPEC partners revealed missiles capable of reaching Europe, a secret capacity only now known. Epic Fury lasted all of 38 days, not like the forever wars Trump vowed to stop. It was a military police action with a world-changing economic goal. Removing Iran as a threat has changed the map of the Middle East for the better and very quickly. Hamas has just dissolved its Gaza government, clearing the way for the Board of Peace to begin reconstruction. The Gulf states, now united against Iran, have joined retaliatory strikes since Epic Fury began and probably continued them last week. They've also invested billions in the United States. Lebanon is working with the U.S. to eliminate Hezbollah and regain sovereignty. The U.S. forced Israel to curtail operations there to make that deal possible. Not only has Iran's nuclear and war-making capacity been destroyed, its economy is in freefall, its government factionalized and losing strength. All of it has left is tear in the Strait of Hormuz, and the U.S. Navy stands ready to deal with that. Yet Democrats in the media insist Iran has won and that Trump went to war without a plan. The results I just told you don't come close to backing any of that up. Now, if this short journey through reality helped cut through the war about the Iran conflict, subscribe to our free newsletter at PrometheanAction.com. It's dedicated to exactly this type of truth-telling. But now I'm going to show you something about this war which no one else is even talking about. Because from the standpoint of America's enemies, this conflict isn't about Iran at all. Energy is the real dictator of the world. Stable energy is the lifeblood of any economy. Since the petrodollar market began in 1971, oil and gas prices and availability have determined any nation's economic success or failure. But sovereign nations had little to say about any of the pricing or availability. Under that scheme, the Gulf states and Russia produced the oil and gas while profits flowed to the City of London. London set the contracts and the prices. Pricing everything in dollars secured a cut for the United States. Peter Navarro documented Iran's role in this looting scheme. Its terrorism added what he calls a tear premium to Gulf profits flowing to London and Wall Street, jacking up prices and Lloyd's of London insurance premiums for years. In return, the Mullins and the IRGC poured millions into London real estate rather than their own people. That's why the UK refused to militarily support the war. By the early 2000s, America's shale revolution, however, made the U.S. self-sufficient in oil and gas. Biden's Green New Deal aimed to destroy that independence by slashing production. The Ukraine war, aimed at regime change in Russia and control of its oil, gas, and mineral wealth, served the same goal. So did Mark Carney's Climate Alliance for Net Zero. It sought to funnel all global energy credit for production solely to wind, solar, and similar primitive sources, shutting out fossil fuels and nuclear energy. As the Trump administration has said repeatedly, the goal was the managed decline of Western civilization. The same goal now declared openly by Mondami's Democratic Socialists of America. At Davos in February, Marco Rubio called on Europe to return to its own values, its history. He said deindustrialization was a conscious policy choice. It was a deliberate and foolish choice that left the West dependent and vulnerable. Since the day he returned to office, Donald Trump has focused on overturning this entire globalist energy slave system. He massively increased U.S. oil and gas output, adding Venezuela to our supply while ending its role in the drug trade. We withdrew entirely from the Green New Deal in all its aspects, and Trump ended billions in Ukraine war funding while seeking peace there. He has rewired energy markets through the Iran conflict, smashing the petrodollar scheme and clearing the way for sovereign trade between nations. These moves have even pushed Mark Carney to admit the old order is finished, kaput. Carney has been left to sputter on about organizing some coalition of middle powers committed to reviving net zero while serving as an economic counterweight to China and the United States. And the UK and Europe, the centers of that old order, are collapsing. Volkswagen just cut 100,000 jobs in Germany. The Economist warns that limited gas access could crash Europe's economies this winter. Europe's populations are in revolt, with opposition parties leading the polls in the UK, France, and Germany. But their insane leaders insist that continuing the Ukraine war and destroying Russian energy infrastructure is an economic revival strategy. Not only that, Chatham House, their foreign policy brain, just said Europe has 4 years to, quote, establish escalation dominance over Russia, a stance which risks nuclear war. These same suicidal maniacs and their Democrat co-thinkers here are cheering for Iran to keep fighting, hoping the chaos defeats Trump in the midterms. Add to that Friday's Wall Street Journal. It touts new intelligence Israel allegedly shared about an Iranian plot to kill Trump. But Trump told the New York Post Israel's information wasn't new. He's known he's been number one on Iran's kill list for a long time. Other administration officials threw shade on the whole story. All of this occurs as Democrats attack Trump as a new Hitler every day, obviously hoping a new young assassin will internalize that language and act on it. That's the real war going on right now, in which Iran plays only a significant bit part. It's between the American system economy of the future, which Trump is building, and the old globalist financier system. They thought that they had killed the American system when they assassinated William McKinley, but then Donald Trump came along. Now, Trump's main front in this war has always been his rebuild of the American economy to benefit America's working and middle classes. For weeks, the president's attention has shifted to the U.S. economy and the midterms. Here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent yesterday in Tennessee.
Our economy has averaged over 100,000 jobs per month for the last 4 months, and real GDP growth increased at a rate of 2.7% over the past 4 quarters. And let me tell you, those are private sector jobs. We have cut government jobs, so all the jobs we are generating now are good paying private sector jobs. Private sector employment is up more than 900,000 jobs since Inauguration Day. The Working Families Tax Cuts delivered the largest share of tax relief directly to millions of low and middle income Americans. Companies have poured trillions of dollars of new investment into our country. We are building more factories here than ever before. I know Toyota is big here in Tennessee, and they got their foothold in America here in Tennessee. And thanks to their great experience here, they just announced a gigantic new plant that they are moving out of Mexico and into San Antonio, Texas. So Tennessee led the way in making Toyota feel welcome.
Famed international economist Mohammed El-Erian published a major New York Times piece this week arguing that Trump's economic reforms are here to stay. He listed 5 new principles established by Trump. These are: national economic capacity is critical to economic security. Trade and investment openness must be strictly reciprocated. The United States must proactively set standards for emerging technologies. The global dominance of the U.S. financial system must be actively protected and leveraged as an instrument of statecraft. And all of this must be aimed at visibly improving the welfare of American households. In the days leading up to our 250th anniversary, the Energy Department announced major breakthroughs in Trump's economy of the near future. They involve advanced energy sources, specifically new nuclear reactor design. There are now 4 new miniaturized reactor designs that work. Their production will let small reactors power AI plants, new weapon systems, and space travel. On July 9th, the Energy Department also announced its plan for deployable fusion power, the energy source that will let cheap, abundant power flow freely throughout the entire world. This is the center of Trump's plan to revolutionize the world economy with abundant, affordable energy for full-scale economic development, ending dependence on London's raw materials cartel forever. Meanwhile, myths about this progress costing workers jobs or income are being shattered. Mike Rowe reports data center electricians are making upwards of $250,000 a year, poached like baseball stars because of short supply. Costco's profitability is driven by a labor policy that pays well above minimum wage with health benefits. One Costco cashier profiled this week makes $33 an hour. 401k matches allow Costco employees to retire as millionaires. That's just a couple of examples of the shifting environment now favoring workers. There will be many more. Now, the old order relies on a propaganda machine to control popular opinion. That's the big weapon they still have now. President Trump informed Iran this morning that any assassination of him will turn the country into a parking lot. That same fear must now come to the enemy within, not in the form of bombs, in the form of millions of people lining up to save the republic in the November midterms. That's where you come in. At Promethean Action, we're telling you what Trump is actually accomplishing in a way we hope you'll be able to spread to others. The midterms depend on us blanketing the country with this message. So share this video and others we make. We also need to grow. If you can help, please subscribe to our newsletter and get on board. This has been your Saturday Wrap. Thanks for listening.
Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at prometheanaction.com.